when a U.S. pilot stole an FW-190. Rain spat across the canopy of the P-51 Mustang as Captain James "Hawk" Harrison skimmed the treetops over northern France. The year was 1944. The war was nearing its brutal crescendo. Intelligence reports had indicated a secret Luftwaffe test airfield tucked in a forest clearing west of Reims. Hawk's mission was simple: photograph the field and return. But nothing about war ever remained simple. 3 minutes out, crackled his wingman, Lieutenant Carl Morgan, over the radio. Hawk adjusted his oxygen mask, eyes narrowing as dark clouds gave way to a clearing below. The airfield emerged, crude, isolated, but unmistakably real. Several German fighters sat parked near camouflaged hangars. But it was one aircraft, gleaming silver and darker winged, that caught his eye, and Focke-Wulf FW-190D, the newer Dora model. Faster, deadlier, and rumored to have been upgraded with experimental tech. "Take your shots," Morgan called. But Hawk didn't. He looped low instead, making another pass, closer this time. The FW-190 looked nearly untouched. That's when the idea hit him. Wild. Impossible. But the kind of idea that lived in Hawk's bones. "I'm going in," he radioed. "Wait, what? What are you, Hawk and But Hawk had already peeled off. The airfield below erupted in alarm. Sirens. Shouts. But they weren't expecting a landing. He dropped the Mustang into a reckless dive, flaring out at the last second. The Mustang's wheels barely kissed the grass before he skidded to a halt. German guards rushed forward, confused, yelling. Hawk yanked his Colt .45 from its holster, threw open the canopy, and leapt to the ground. The first 2 guards went down fast. The third raised a rifle, too late. Hawk shot him through the chest. Alarms were screaming now, but the chaos played in his favor. Mechanics ducked for cover. One ran. The FW-190D sat there like a forbidden jewel. He sprinted, clambered into the cockpit. The gauges were labeled in German, but Hawk had studied Luftwaffe manuals in briefings for months. His fingers danced across unfamiliar switches. Fuel, check. Magnetos, check. Throttle forward. A cough. A roar. The FW-190's radial engine came alive like an angry beast. Machine gun bullets zipped past, punching holes in the fuselage. Hawk swore and shoved the throttle forward. The Dora tore across the grass, its wheels bouncing, lifting, and then, miraculously, it was in the air. Behind him, tracer fire sliced the sky. A Bf-109 scrambled into pursuit. Hawk looped around a bank of clouds and punched the nose down, gaining speed. He laughed, half disbelief, half madness. The flight back was treacherous. Every Allied gun on the ground, every patrol in the sky, could mistake him for the enemy. Twice, P-47 Thunderbolts tried to intercept him. He had to dive into valleys, radio silent, maneuvering with desperation and prayer. Finally, he crossed into Allied-held territory. A British radar outpost picked up his signal. Ground control was skeptical, a German fighter asking permission to land? But Hawk knew the codes. He dropped his American call sign. They let him in at gunpoint. Word spread like wildfire. A Yankee pilot stealing a Dora? Unheard of. Command was furious, until the intelligence officers saw the plane. Then they were drooling. But Hawk's joy didn't last. "You're grounded, Captain," barked Colonel Willard, a square-jawed man who hadn't flown since '41. "What? I just brought you a flying gold mine." "You disobeyed direct orders. Reckless. Lucky you weren't shot down by your own side." They stripped Hawk of his flight privileges. The FW-190 was handed to OSS engineers. Hawk watched from behind a chain-link fence as others studied his prize. His fingers itched. Every nerve in his body screamed to be back in the sky. But weeks passed. The war churned on. Then came a whisper. From a man in shadows. "Captain Harrison," said the voice. British accent. Thin mustache. "OSS. We need a pilot. One familiar with the Dora. We've learned of a prototype, the FW-190X, being transported by train to Berlin. If it gets there, it could turn the tide of the air war. Hawk's heart pounded. You want me to stop it? The agent smiled. We want you to steal it. Again. A week later, Hawk was back in German airspace, wearing a stolen Luftwaffe uniform, fake documents, and a cold, ruthless determination. He infiltrated the Bavarian test field disguised as a delivery mechanic. The prototype sat inside a hangar, sleek and menacing, painted in matte black. It was rumored to have a pressurized cockpit and jet-assisted takeoff. The plan was insane. Get in, fire up, and fly north to Denmark, where a British sub waited. But Hawk wasn't afraid of impossible. He waited for the changing of the guards, slipped through the shadows, knocked out the sentry, climbed in. The cockpit was even stranger than the Dora's. Gauges pulsed faint blue. Experimental tech, or something more. He hit the starter. Nothing. Then a hiss. A vibration. The plane hummed, almost alive. He taxied out of the hangar, lights snapping on across the airfield. Shouts. Gunfire. Searchlights. He ignited the JATO, jet-assisted takeoff. The plane leapt into the air like a missile. The G-force slammed him back into the seat. Then he saw them, Tu-262 jets scrambling from a nearby base. One swooped past. Hawk Dove rolled, kicked the engine into overdrive. The prototype shuddered, screaming, and pulled away. He reached the Danish coast just before sunrise. Allied ships opened fire, thinking he was the enemy. He dived low, radioing the emergency code. The sub surfaced. A small launch met him. He landed the plane on the beach, skidding through wet sand. Allied agents swarmed him. They were speechless. He'd done it again. 1 year later, after the war ended, Hawk stood before a congressional committee. Captain Harrison, a senator, said, "Why did you risk your life to steal not one, but 2 enemy fighters?" Hawk smiled. Because war isn't just bullets. It's brains. And sometimes it takes a little madness to win. The stolen FW-190X was dismantled and studied for years, influencing post-war aircraft design. James Hawk Harrison was eventually reinstated and honored in secret. His daring missions remained classified for decades. But pilots still whisper about him, the man who stole the enemy's wings and used them to fly. Let me know if you'd like a visual scene, character sketch, or to expand this into a screenplay.